Hello everyone, this is The Question, and this is going to be my reading log for the months of February and March 2022. So as you can see here, I read quite a bit. There was also some other volumes that I read during the month that I did not care for, that I got rid of. But I'll talk about those more in the separate part of the video. But yeah, here is everything. I am not great at doing these type of videos. But I definitely feel like I need to get better at them. I have a really hard time explaining why I enjoy books and stories, other than kind of just a basic one line like I really enjoy this or I really don't. So I feel like I need to be doing more of these type of videos in between my hauls. First off, just to show that I'm actually reading some of the stuff I'm picking up. And I generally try to read at least a volume a day. Obviously, with some thicker volumes or omnibus volumes, I only, it takes me a couple days to get through one. But I generally try to read at least a volume a day. And yeah, so in the comments at the end, if you have any thoughts or any recommendations, anything I can do better, let me know. I'm going to try to do these each month along with my haul videos, just for my own self to try to kind of get better at doing it. I'd get better at explaining myself and why I enjoy things. So thanks for watching. Okay, so my first thing I read through in the month of February of 2022, I read through all of Wandering Sun by Shimura Takako. This was originally published in Japan from 2003 to 2013, and when it was released in English, it was released by Fantagraphics in these really nice hardcover editions, but unfortunately we only got 8 hardcovers in English, so we got about 2/3 of the way, maybe 3/4 of the way through the series in English before they canceled it. Which is disappointing because these are really nice releases, and the series should have been completed in English. But if you've watched my previous haul videos, when I actually bought this series from someone on Reddit, they had actually included self-printed English volumes of the finished part of the series. So I was actually able to read the entire series in English, which I probably wouldn't have picked it up if that wasn't the case, because I'm not a fan of reading being able to read 3/4 of a series that I'm invested in and not being able to finish it. So this is basically what the hardcovers look like. As you can see, these are some really nice hardcovers. They're fairly similar in size, I would say, to they're a little thinner than the JoJo's hardcovers if you're looking for something to compare to. And then as you can see, we've got some color pages at the beginning, kind of some character breakdowns, and then we start getting into, and then a few color pages there. The paper quality is really nice. It's a really nice looking series. The artwork is good. So just getting a little bit into it, for anybody who doesn't know anything about this series. So the story follows 2 5th graders who become friends. One is Shu, who is born as a boy and wants to become a girl, and the other is Yoshino, who is born as a girl who wants to become a boy. So they become friends. They, once they become more comfortable with each other, they tell each other this about themselves. And so basically this whole series revolves around their growth. They're going through childhood, making friends, dealing with bullies, dealing with their family, just kind of, puberty, growing up, trying to figure out themselves, trying to learn how to be comfortable with themselves when they're not really comfortable in their own bodies. So it's a really fascinating series in that regard. I really expected to love this series, so right now I'm going to start showing some of the other volumes. So here we have book 2. So each book has kind of their own little color scheme. So this one, the writing is blue, and the spines are blue. Yeah, and like I said, I really expected to love this series, and I thought it was really good. I thought it was a great series. There was a couple things that kept me from loving the series, and one of those is the plotting / pacing is a little weird in spots. There was multiple times where I thought I had missed chapters. Like I thought like the book was misprinted, because like you would get to a panel, and then all of a sudden it would be days later, and there'd be no telling you that that the story had moved. Like you would just be in the middle of a conversation, and then the conversation would just randomly be over, and it'd be days later. There was a lot of that where I kept flipping back through, like, did I miss something? Is something going on? Like, there was a lot of that in this story, and that did affect my connection with it as much as I had hoped for. I wish it was a little more straightforward in that regard. So yeah, so here's 3. Here's 4. And then the other thing, which is actually mentioned by the artist or by the creator in kind of her afterword, there is a lot of kids in this series, and a lot. So it's basically showing like all the kids in a classroom. So you get, sometimes there's up to 30 kids kind of being shown, and there's definitely a high number of kids that are main characters in the story, and with it being black and white, it's really hard to distinguish between some of the characters, and I was doing a really good job with it in the first 1 or 2 books, but it kept being that like I was having to like figure out who this was on like every single panel in some cases. So I was having to, at a point, I just kind of like blended characters together, because I couldn't keep track of, I didn't have the time to be like every single panel like who is this, and trying to think of which each character was. So unless they were like visually distinctive, which would make it easy, like the 2 main characters and things like that, but a lot of the characters are drawn very similar, and it was really hard for me to keep them separate. So that definitely probably affected some of my enjoyment of it too. So here's 4. Here's 5. Here's 6. And the covers are great. I love kind of the watercolor look to them. I have some other Shimura Takako series, and they all have this same sort of watercolor artwork to them, which I really enjoy. I really like these covers. Volume 7. And then we have volume 8. So this was the final volume that was printed in English. And like I said, I actually read I went back and looked online, saw some articles from Fantagraphics at about this time when the series was getting canceled, and sounds like they were pretty disappointed. They were, they obviously wanted to keep running it, but after the first volume, this was, I think this came out in English in like 2015. Manga wasn't quite at the popularity, especially not as it's hit during this pandemic. Where we really don't see series get canceled in English that often. But back then, the articles I saw from Fantagraphics were like, the first volume sold great, and then it just slowly got to where it was not even remotely profitable for them to keep releasing the series. So that's understandable, but still disappointing that we never got it completed in English, because I think a lot of people would enjoy this series if they were able to read the entire thing. Because not everyone's going to have the ability or to get the final parts of the series in English. So I definitely recommend this if you're interested in this type of, and if anything about the subject matter of this series sounds interesting to you, I definitely recommend it. It's definitely a fascinating series, about transgender children and what's going, all the things that they have to deal with besides their parents, other kids, teachers. It's just a really interesting series, and I'm glad I've read it. Next up, we have Red Snow. This is by Susumu Katsumata. This is a drawn and quarterly release, and this is a short story collection of, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correct, Gakiga, collection of short stories by Japanese artist Susumu Katsumata. I don't remember too much about this book. Like I said, I read it in February. It wasn't that good. I mean, it was like some of the stories were better than others, like a lot of short story collections, but I didn't really connect to too much in this. Like some of these releases of older manga, some of the more interesting things in here was actually the interviews and afterwards of kind of discussing the creators and kind of telling us a little bit more background of them. That I found a lot more interesting than the actual manga. So this kind of has an interview with the creator, and then it also has an article about him and his life. Kind of tells how he went around, how he decided to get involved in manga. And so yeah, so I enjoyed that quite a bit more than I actually enjoyed the stories in here. It wasn't bad. Like, I mean, I think I gave it like 3 stars on Goodreads. And it looks like most people, I think it averaged like a little over 3 stars. So this is not supposed to be like a 5-star book. But it was definitely worth reading. And if you're into that style of manga, then definitely you might want to pick this one up. Next up, we have Giant Spider and Me, a post-apocalyptic tale. This is by Kokori Marino. This is a short 3-volume series. I had 2 volumes of the series for a while, and one of the volumes had been out of stock from Right Stuff, so I think I ended up having to buy it from Amazon. I think that was volume 1, so I think I had 2 and 3, or maybe it was 2. I don't know which one. 2 has a remainder mark on it, so maybe it was 2. But yeah, this is a short 3-volume series. It's just a really cute series. I really enjoyed this one. It definitely feels like it could have been longer. You can kind of get the feel from it that it was probably canceled in Japan, but it was allowed to complete. Like popularity wasn't what they wanted, so they cut it short. But it's a really cute series that I really enjoyed. It is a 7 Seas release. Here's what the spines look like. And it's basically about this girl who kind of lives out on her own in the wild. It's a post-apocalyptic time, and she runs into this giant spider. It's not something that they normally see in this world. So she runs into the spider, thinking it's going to be a monster that's going to attack her, and then they end up, as you can see here, becoming friends, and it basically becomes a pet for her. So the story is basically them kind of living out in the mountains, and then dealing with some other friends that she runs into and other people in the village, and how they find out, about this giant spider, and how they think that she should not be friends with this giant spider. So as you can see, the artwork is really nice. There's a lot of cooking in it. It shows it actually has recipes for a lot of the stuff. Because she lives on her own, she's kind of had to learn how to cook on her own. So there's recipes in every volume. I think there's a couple in each volume. But yeah, it's just a really, really heartwarming, series. I really enjoyed it. I love these kind of short series. I mean, like I said, this definitely could have probably been an 8 to 10 volume series, but it does get wrapped up in 3 volumes. And yeah, I reckon if you like these type of series, then definitely check this one out, because I highly recommend it. Okay, so next up was the final volume of Boys Run the Riot Volume 4. If you've seen any of my past videos, I really love this series. This was one of my favorite series of the last year. It is by a transgender creator, which is pretty rare, and then it looks like the whole team involved with this project was all transgender too. And yeah, it's just a really great wrap up of the series. This is a thicker volume, as you can tell here. I think I mentioned this in my previous video. When I finished volume 3, or when I got volume 3, I didn't know the series was ending at 4 volumes. It wasn't till I saw in another YouTuber's video about this, they mentioned that that 4 was the final volume. I actually thought like the story was just picking up, so I was pretty sad when I found out that it was wrapping up so quickly. But yeah, this definitely wraps everything up. I'm not going to get too much into it because it's the final volume. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't read it. But yeah, the artwork in this series is great. The characters are great. It really focuses on a smaller group of characters. But yeah, like it says here, if you're looking for smart stories about transgender or non-binary characters, and then it also has Japanese street fashion, this is just a really great series. I can't recommend this one enough. Definitely pick this series up. Boys Run the Riot. So next up is a series that I actually don't have anymore. It is Granblue Dreaming. So I had bought it from a used place, the first 6 volumes of Granblue Dreaming. And it was a series that didn't seem like something I was going to enjoy. I mean, the back of it mentioned like similar humor to American Pie and The Hangover. And that's not my type of humor, so I wasn't expecting to enjoy it. But I had enough different people I follow who really love the series that I'm always willing to give a series a shot, even if it doesn't seem like it's something I'm going to enjoy. But no, I read through the first 2 volumes and it was exactly what I expected. I didn't even crack a smile once. It was definitely not my type of humor. It's basically about kids at a diving school just getting drunk and having parties all the time, and that is the last thing I have any interest in reading. So I sold it off to someone else who could enjoy it on Reddit. And yeah, so I don't have anything really negative to say about it. It just is not my type of book, not my type of humor. So yeah, so that was Granblue Dreaming. I did give it a two volume shot. So next up is Frieren Beyond Journey's End Volume 1. So this is a series that obviously everybody is talking about and recommending. So I grabbed the first volume and then I had pre-ordered volumes 2 and 3. So normally with a series like this, I kind of wait till the whole series is completed before I actually read through it, because being old, my memory, it's hard for me to read a bunch of different volumes in a month. It's hard for me I like to kind of binge through a series, but I wanted to make sure I was going to enjoy this one. So in the month of February, I read through a bunch of volume 1s that I had just to make sure I was going to enjoy them. And this one was fantastic. So I definitely will be reading through this. Story by Kanehito Yamada, art by Tsukasa Abe. But yeah, you really don't, I mean, there's plenty of people talking about this series who have actually read volumes 2 and 3. All I read was volume 1. And yeah, it's just, I can't recommend this enough. It was a really great series. I really enjoyed the characters. The main character is just really interesting. And this is a story that I haven't seen too much. It's basically these characters had gone on some multi-year journey of trying to kill this big bad guy and save the world, and this basically is about what they do after that happened. So you get a lot of heroes' journeys stories where it's basically shows you from them starting to the end. This is just starts at the end and goes from there. So I'm really looking forward to checking out more of this, but like I said, I'll probably wait till a lot of this series was released or it's ended. But yeah, can't recommend it enough. Definitely pick up Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Okay, so next of me reading volume 1 of a series is Golden Kamuy Volume 1. This is story and art by Satoru Nota. So I have 25 volumes of this series and I had not read a single volume, which, yes, that is not very smart, especially if I wasn't going to enjoy it. So instead of me keeping to pre-order volumes of this series, I figured I should at least read volume 1 before I kept continuing on, because I know it's a long volume series, but I think it's getting near the end. I don't think there's going to be too many more volumes. So I did read through volume 1, and it was really good. I really enjoyed the storyline. I really enjoyed the characters. It definitely didn't hit me like Free Ren did, the one I read right before it. But I'm definitely fascinated with what was going to go on in here. As you can see here, it's got really nice artwork, and the kind of basics is very graphic artwork. But yeah, very interested in what's going to go on with this series. And as you can see with my volume 1 here, I've got one of the volumes where the spine is quite misaligned. But I'm one of those people who really doesn't care about that too much, so it doesn't really bother me. But yeah, I'm definitely I'm going to continue with this series. Probably going to wait till it's completely finished and then do one of those binges in a month where I read through all of it. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Okay, next volume 1 I read is Kaiju number 8, volume 1. This is one that tons of people have been talking about. Didn't look like something I would normally pick up, but yeah, I'm glad I decided to randomly grab this. I read through this volume 1. I think volume 2 just came out, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun series, a little different than kind of what we normally get in a Shonen Jump book. The artwork is nice. It's got a nice cast of characters. And at least at this first volume, I'm definitely going to continue reading, so I'm looking forward to getting more of this. Okay, so next we have Ghostly Things, volumes 1 through 3. This is another Seven Seas short 3-volume series, and this is another one where I kind of get the feeling that it got canceled early, but it does wrap up. And this one was just okay. I definitely didn't enjoy it nowhere near as much as Giant Spider and Me, which kind of has a similar vibe to it. This one is, these covers are great. I really like the covers. But here's what the 3 volumes look like all together. And it's got kind of a similar, it's basically this teenage girl. Her father is off overseas. She's kind of in a house by herself, and she's basically dealing with these ghosts and spirits that live in the house. And yeah, it's just, like I said, it was okay. It wasn't like I'm not going to sell this series off. I didn't strongly dislike it, so I'm fine having it in my collection. But it's not something that I think I'm going to go back to and read any more of, and reread. But yeah, if you have different thoughts on the series, go ahead and let me know. But yeah, I think I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads, which for things that I find okay, I didn't think were great, and I didn't dislike them where they start going down lower than that. I usually put them at 3 stars. So yeah, that was Ghostly Things. Okay, one of the most popular manga series out there, we have Chainsaw Man Volume 1. So I had been buying these volumes just because I kind of wanted to see what everybody was talking about. I kind of did the same thing with Jujutsu Kaisen, a series that I collected basically like the first 8 or 9 volumes. And that series I didn't end up enjoying very much, so I ended up passing that along. But with Chainsaw Man, I kind of have been doing the same thing. And so I figure I should at least give volume 1 a read, see what I think about it. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good series, or a good starting volume. I mean, I guess I'll see, once I actually decide to read the series. I think it ends I think it's a fairly short series. Well, at least for, I think what I've read, part 1 is like 10 to 12 volumes, somewhere around there. And I think we're already up to volume 10. But yeah, I'm not going to show too much of the inside of the book, with it being a pretty graphic stuff inside. But yeah, the stuff with him and his devil dog was cute. The artwork was good. So I think I'm going to continue with it and see if I enjoy it going forward. But yeah, I definitely am going to read more of Chainsaw Man. Okay, next up, another 3-volume Seven Seas release. We have Goodbye My Rose Garden by Dr. Pepperco, which is by far the coolest mangaka name I've ever heard. I'm assuming that's not a real name. But yeah, this is a really sweet series. It's very emotional. It's basically about a maid and a noblewoman who fall in love. So it's just a cute romance series. There's definitely some drama in it, but it's got some good side characters. It's only, like I said, it's only 3 volumes. This completes the series. So it's not a huge time commitment. And it's not a hard to find series. I got all of these used for, you know, $7, $8, I think. But yeah, the artwork's great. Gives me a similar vibe artwork wise to Emma, which I have not gotten to actually read yet. But yeah, just a nice kind of romance story. Like it says here on the back, this noblewoman and this maid first become friends, then they end up falling in love. But the whole time, the noblewoman has begged the maid to kill her, and she doesn't know why. So that's kind of the main crux of the story, is finding out why she wants her to kill her. But yeah, can't recommend this enough. Great series if you're into romance, and yeah, a short 3-volume series. Okay, so next I read through Eagle, The Making of an Asian American President. This is a series that ran in Japan from, I think, 97 to 2001. It is by Kaiji Kawaguchi. And it was released in English by Viz in single volumes, these really small volumes. And then it was also released in these larger omnibus volumes in 5 total. So there's 5 total of these omnibus volumes. And this is an older series, you know, early 2000s Viz release. So this is a series that I would always see, and I always thought sounded interesting. You know, a kind of Japanese manga take on the United States political system and becoming a president. So it always seemed interesting, but I never hear anybody talk about this series. But yeah, I ended up picking it up, and I'm glad I did. I expected it to feel dated, you know, because it's about, it's basically about this lead character who is of Asian American descent. He was in the military. He becomes a senator, and his whole goal in life is to become president. So it basically, this whole series shows from the moment he kind of announces his candidacy, and basically him and his team going through him trying to become president as a Democratic nomination. So that's the basis of the series. But yeah, it's basically about the American political system in the early 2000s. So like I said, I was expecting this to be dated. I'm not too interested. I'm not like huge into the political system. I mean, I'm American, so I know about the political system. And but yeah, it like, I was really enthralled, and I could not stop reading this. Like, as soon as I would finish a volume, I was kind of wanting to immediately hop into the next volume. It's just a really, really interesting series, and it really kind of kept me, you know, even though I kind of could feel like where the story was going, I still was really transfixed and ready to find out what was going to happen next. So yeah, I really can't recommend this series enough. It's not super, I mean, it's obviously long out of print, but it wasn't super expensive. I see people selling the singles and these omnibus volumes all the time, but it's just like a lesser known series. So yeah, if you have any sort of interest in kind of drama and kind of seeing, you know, a manga take on the American political system, and it gets so much of it really, I mean, it's done really well. You can definitely tell the creator did a ton of research, but also made the story really interesting. The characters really interesting. It kind of reminds me of the first few seasons of House of Cards, which you know, was a really good early Netflix series. It reminded me of those first few seasons, you know, before it kind of started going downhill. Kind of the stuff that you have to deal with, you know, in the political system here in the United States. So yeah, can't recommend this enough. This is probably one of the best series that I read in February, March. Yeah, definitely pick this up if you have any interest in what I mentioned. Okay, next we have a book that needs no introduction. I talk about this in almost every video. A Man and His Cat, and this is volume 5, which came out in the last month or two. Easily one of my favorite series. I just love this series as a man who loves cats. I have 5 cats. I just connect with the series. I just really love the wholesomeness of this series and the way that, yeah, the artwork is great. I mean, this cover is fantastic. I can't speak highly enough about A Man and His Cat. Everyone should read this series. I don't care if you don't like cats or not. You definitely should be reading this. It is just a very wholesome, just great series. Can't recommend it enough. Volume 5, the previews for it in the comments had mentioned that it was going to be a little more scary or sad, and so it had me a little worried that something bad was going to happen to these cats, but obviously nothing bad happens to them. So but yeah, just pick this series up. Volumes 1 through 5 are out now. It's an ongoing, but yeah, if anybody who tells me that they don't like this series, I do not believe them. Great series. Okay, so next we have 5 Seconds Before a Witch Falls in Love. I hadn't really heard anything about this book. It's a one-shot. It's kind of interconnected short stories in this book. Hadn't heard of the creator, hadn't heard the story, just saw the cover at Barnes & Noble. Decided to pick it up. And it was not great. It was okay. It's funny, you actually read the afterword, which is by the creator, and she actually mentions in there that these are some of her older stories and she wishes that she could have redone them before this release. But yeah, so it's basically this story about, like it says here, a magical enemies to lovers Yuri rom-com. It's basically about a witch and a witch hunter who have a crush on each other, and so they keep interacting, even though, you know, the witch hunter should have obviously, they should have tried to get rid of each other by now, but because they have a crush on each other, they do not. So the artwork is okay. You know, nothing great. But yeah, it's basically kind of 3 short stories connected together with an afterword. So if it sounds like something you might enjoy, like I said, I didn't, you know, it's very short. It's a fairly thin release for $13.99 from 7 Seas. But if it sounds like something you might enjoy, then give it a shot. Okay, next up we got Cheeky Brat Volume 1. This I've heard lots of people talk about, saying that it was a really cute kind of rom-com high school series. I don't read a ton of those, so I figure I'd give this one a shot. It also has basketball in it, which I really enjoy basketball. It's funny actually reading the comments from the creator in this series that she doesn't really know anything about basketball, which I found very interesting because, you know, having the series be about a sport that you don't really know anything about is definitely, you know, she mentions in there that she was like, you know, having to kind of learn stuff on the fly, which I enjoyed. And yeah, it's a cute series. I'll definitely continue. I think it's up to volume 3 now. I have the first 2 volumes. But I wanted to read the first volume and make sure I was going to enjoy it, and I thought it was good, not great. Okay, so next up we have another high school kind of rom-com. This is The Girl with the San Paco Eyes. That I read through volume 1 this month. I think it's up to, I have the first 3 volumes, so I'm assuming maybe 4 volumes. This is a Denpa release, and it's actually in full color. The fact that it's in color and I kind of like the cover is why I decided to pick it up, and I'm really glad I did. I actually enjoyed this more than Cheeky Brat. It's just a really cute series. It's about this main girl who, because she has San Paco Eyes, which I guess in Japan makes people think that she has like this tough kind of exterior, but she really is a sweet, you know, kind of romantic person, and it's basically her falling in love with this boy in her class. So I really enjoyed this one. If you like these type of books, definitely check this one out. I really enjoyed it being in full color was awesome. So, okay, another series. I actually read through all 7 volumes of Saturn Apartments. This is an out-of-print Viz series from a few years ago. It's one that I've always loved the covers. I kind of always like the art style. And so I actually picked these up fairly one by one. There's a bunch of volumes that are available out of the 7. I think 3 or 4 were available for way under retail. And then there's a couple that go for like 20 and 30 that I was able to get for a decent price. So I read through all 7 volumes. The series is basically about this world where no one lives on Earth anymore. They basically live in this kind of ring around the Earth, and something happened on Earth. There was some sort of poisoning of the planet, and so everybody lives in this ring, and there's basically different classes of people. So the poorest class does most of the menial labor. So this story focuses on this young kid who wants to become a window wiper or window cleaner like his dad was. And so it's basically like him he lives on his own, and him kind of growing up and growing into this job. So that's basically what the series entails. The first few volumes, it was kind of more slice of life-ish. As it goes, it kind of gets more heavy by the final couple volumes. And I enjoyed these first few volumes probably more. It introduces a lot of really interesting side characters, and I really enjoyed kind of some of their little side things, little side tangents that the story would go on. But one thing that stopped me from really loving this series is it did kind of drag on. I definitely feel like it probably could have been 4 volumes, 5 volumes. It did feel a little dragged on. And then the way the story went towards the end, less interesting for me. So I kind of give this, I think I gave the first couple volumes 4 stars. The last 2 or 3 volumes, I think I gave 3 stars. So I definitely recommend it, but I didn't love it like I thought I would. Here's kind of what the covers look like. As you can see, very distinctive covers. It's volume 3, volume 4, volume 5, and 6 I think is the rarest volume. So here's 6. And the volume 6 I got was actually an ex-library copy. I was able to get all the stickers off of it. And it's actually in really great condition other than the stamp at the top. And then volume 7, which is quite a bit thicker. So that's all 7 volumes of Saturn Apartments. If it sounds like something you might be interested in, I actually kind of expected it was going to be a little more similar to Planetus, a series which I love, one of my favorite series. And this is nowhere near the quality of that. It's got kind of a similar vibe, kind of slice of life out in space, but this one just doesn't have the writing and the characters that Planetus does. But still, I enjoyed it. It's just not something that I'm probably going to reread. Okay, so next I read through Our Dreams at Dusk. This is a shorter 4-volume series. I had the first 3 volumes for months, and then volume 4 was out of stock for a long time, and I finally got that sent to me, so I was able to read through this. Like I said, it's a shorter 4-volume series by 7 Seas. The 4th volume is a little bigger. This is an LGBT series about a high school kid who is outed as gay at school, and he's basically having to deal with being bullied, deciding if he's going to tell his parents. But the majority of the story is him finding this group of like-minded people that work kind of at this like non-profit house where they kind of do things like help build houses or help clean up stuff. And so that's basically the crux of the series, is him kind of just being more comfortable with himself and meeting different people at this house. And kind of connecting with his bully and other people at his school. and then also talking to his parents about his being gay. So yeah, as you can see, these covers are awesome. The artwork is fantastic. I really like the colors on these covers. It was just a really enjoyable series. I really enjoyed it. The story, the characters were great. I can't recommend this one enough. Let's go ahead and see. If you're interested in this type of stories, then definitely check this one out. Like it says here, a beautiful tale of coming out and coming of age, 4-volume short series. Okay, and the last thing I read in the month of March was Sunny by Teo Matsumoto. I read all 6 of the hardcover volumes that Viz released. These are some really nice hardcover releases. I really like the material that these hardcovers are made out of. If you've read any Matsumoto before, you'll immediately kind of notice his distinctive art style. We've got some color pages occasionally. Just some really great artwork. The artwork is definitely one of the highlights. As you see some color pages there. And the basic premise of this story is it's about this group of kids that live in this home. It's kind of like an orphanage, but most of these kids they have parents. Their parents just don't want to take care of them. So they basically send them to this kind of orphanage that basically deals with kids whose parents they're either addicts or they just don't want to have their children. So it's definitely a lot sadder, I think, than like a normal story. Whereas if like all these kids' parents had passed away, that would be a little, the kids could eventually kind of get over that. But with these kids, most of their parents are still alive. They just don't want them. So it's like the parents or the family will come visit them like once a year, kind of getting their hopes up and then just leaving them back at this house. So that's definitely more mentally, at least in my opinion, I find that to be probably more mentally tough. And so some of these kids become kind of jerks and bad kids in a sense, but you can kind of see why with what they had to deal with in their lives. So here's what all the volumes look like, and each cover kind of focuses on another kid from the house. The adult characters that kind of run the house are really well done. They're definitely given unique personalities and you can kind of see why they are the way they are after having to deal with these kids, getting their hopes up that their parents are going to come back and get them, and then most of the time they do not. And that's the 5th volume, and here's the final volume. So yeah, if you have not read any Matsumoto before, this is definitely a good starter one. It's fairly straightforward storytelling. It's just a really great series. I can't recommend it highly enough. Okay, so that was everything I read in the month of February and March of 2022. Like I said at the beginning, if you have any thoughts, any questions, any recommendations, or anything I can do better, please let me know. I'm doing these kind of reading along videos to improve myself. So any recommendations, go ahead and let me know. For the month of April, I'm focusing on Osamu Tezuka. I'm going to read through as much of the books of his that I own as I can in the month of April. I own a lot of his work, but I actually haven't read very much. I've read sporadic Astro Boy, I've read like Metropolis, I think I read Next World, but I haven't really read too much Tezuka, and I've been slowly amassing a large amount of it. I think I have 30 or 40 Tezuka books at this point. So I wanted for the month of April just to focus on Tezuka. So sometime in May, I'll have a video of everything that I read through. I've already read through, I think, 5 volumes by April 10th. So look forward to that. And thanks everyone for watching. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. Thanks.